If you were born today, you have clean water, antibiotics, electricity, the internet, and a doctor within driving distance. And most people still complain about their gender. But if you had been born at the wrong moment in history, complaining would have been a luxury. Because some periods of human history were so brutal, so hopeless, so completely without mercy, that simply waking up the next morning was a victory. Today, we are going on a journey through 7 of the worst times in human history to be born as a human being, starting from the very beginning of time and working our way forward, all the way to the modern era. By the end of this video, you might never complain about anything again. Now, before we get into the list, I want to be clear about something. This is not just a list of wars and disasters. It is a list of what daily life actually felt like if you were born in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because the real horror of these periods was not just the big events. It was waking up every single morning, not knowing if today was the day something killed you. We start at number 7, the oldest period, and work forward to number 1, the most recent. Let's get into it. Let's start with something completely different. Forget wars, forget plagues, forget political collapse. Imagine you were somehow born as a human being 66 million years ago, during the age of the dinosaurs. First, you would be prey, not just for one predator, for hundreds of them. Tyrannosaurus rex stood 12 feet tall, weighed 9 tons, and could smell you from over a mile away. Spinosaurus was even larger. Velociraptors hunted in coordinated packs the way modern wolves do, and those were just the ones on land. The skies were patrolled by pterosaurs, with wingspans up to 33 feet. The oceans were ruled by mosasaurs that made modern great white sharks look like goldfish. You would have had no weapons capable of fighting any of these, no fire advanced enough to stop them, no shelter strong enough to protect you for long, no medicine for any of the injuries they caused. But here is the worst part. None of that would even matter in the end, because on one specific day, 66 million years ago, an asteroid roughly 6 miles wide, traveling at 40,000 miles per hour, slammed into what is now Mexico. The impact released more energy than 1 billion nuclear bombs. The sky caught fire. Tsunamis miles high wiped out coastlines across the planet. A cloud of debris blocked the sun for years. 75% of all species on Earth went extinct. The dinosaurs were gone, and you, a fragile little human standing somewhere in this chaos, would have had absolutely zero chance. We move forward in time, and now humans actually exist, which means you can now experience something the dinosaurs never could: suffering. Welcome to the Ice Age. Imagine waking up every single morning in a world where the temperature never truly gets warm. Not winter cold. Permanently bone-destroying, relentless cold. Now, imagine surviving that with nothing but animal skins, a small fire, and a cave. Your entire life revolved around one question: will I eat today? Because food was never guaranteed. You hunted woolly mammoths with sharpened stone spears, animals that weighed up to 15,000 pounds. If you missed, you went hungry. If it turned and charged you, you died. And the mammoth was not the only thing trying to kill you. Cave bears stood 11 feet tall. Cave lions were bigger than modern lions. Saber-toothed cats had fangs the size of kitchen knives. You had no walls between you and any of them, just a fire you could never let go out, because the moment that fire died, everything in the dark came closer. The average life expectancy was 25 to 35 years. One broken leg, one deep wound, one infection, and you were finished. There was no doctor, no antibiotics, no surgery. You either healed on your own, or you died slowly while your group moved on without you. Because stopping meant freezing, and freezing meant dying. We move forward to the ancient world, and for the first time in history, civilizations exist, cities, and you might think that sounds like progress. But for most people born into this era, civilization invented something new, a way for powerful humans to completely own other humans. If you were born into the wrong family, in the wrong city, at the wrong time, you were property, not a person. Property. Enslaved people in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt had no legal rights. None. Their owners could beat them, sell them, separate them from their children, and kill them, with no consequence. And becoming enslaved was terrifyingly easy. If your city lost a war, you were marched out in chains. If your family fell into debt, you could be sold to pay it. If you were born to an enslaved mother, you were enslaved from your first breath. The work they were forced to do was designed to destroy you. Deep underground mines, with no ventilation, no safety, and no way out. Building the massive stone monuments we still look at today, those monuments were built by human beings, worked until they broke, and then replaced. And then, around 1200 BC, the entire world collapsed. The food stopped arriving, the soldiers disappeared, the trade ships never came back, and the city that was your entire world went silent overnight. The ones not killed in the chaos became refugees, wandering a landscape where every city they could run to was collapsing just as fast. You wake up one morning feeling fine. By the next evening, you have a fever you cannot explain. By the third day, black swollen lumps the size of apples have appeared under your arms and on your neck. By the end of the week, you are probably dead. Welcome to Europe in 1347. The Black Death arrived from Central Asia, carried by fleas on rats, hitching rides on trade ships. And within 5 years, it killed between 30 and 60% of everyone in Europe. Not 5%, not 10%, 60%. Imagine 2 out of every 3 people you know being dead within 5 years. Nobody understood what was happening. Doctors wore beaked masks filled with flowers and believed that good smells could fight disease. They were wrong. Entire villages were abandoned overnight, bodies piled in streets faster than people could bury them. Priests who came to give last rites caught the plague and died before leaving the house. The cruelest part was not the dying. It was watching it happen to everyone around you and being completely powerless. Your children could be fine at breakfast and burning with fever by dinner. Your parents could be healthy on Monday and gone by Friday. And every person you got close to comfort, to hold, to say goodbye to, you risked catching it yourself. The only advice doctors gave was to flee, but you could not outrun something you could not see coming. We move forward to 1492, and the horror of this period is invisible, because the thing that was about to destroy entire civilizations could not be seen, could not be fought, and could not be outrun. When Europeans arrived in the America, they brought something far more deadly than soldiers. They brought disease, smallpox, measles, typhus, cholera, diseases that Europeans had spent centuries building partial immunity to, and that indigenous Americans had never encountered in their entire history. Your healers had no cure. Your gods had no answer. Your leaders had no explanation. Entire villages emptied in weeks. Parents watching children die with no understanding of why. Within 150 years of contact, up to 90% of the indigenous population of the Americas was gone. 90%. And if the disease did not get you, the conquistadors might. Soldiers in steel armor, riding horses that indigenous people had never seen before, armed with weapons that made stone and wood tools look like toys. And for those who survived, both, what came next was forced labor in silver mines, breathing mercury vapors hundreds of feet underground. The average life expectancy of a mine worker was 4 to 5 years from the moment they entered. Not their whole life, just 4 to 5 years. We move forward again. And this one might surprise you, because the Industrial Revolution is usually taught as a story of progress. Factories, steam engines, railways, new technology. But if you were born poor during this period, you were not living in a story of progress. Imagine you are 7 years old. It is 4 in the morning, and you are being lowered into a coal mine. Your job for the next 12 hours is to sit alone in a tunnel, too narrow to stand in total darkness, opening and closing a ventilation door every time a cart passes. Alone in the dark for 12 hours, every single day. There were no safety guards on machines. If you got too close, the machine took a hand, an arm, or your life. And when that happened, you were simply fired, because there were always more desperate people ready to take your place. 20 people shared a single room. Raw sewage ran through the streets. Cholera swept through the slums in 1831, 1849, 1854, and 1866. If you got sick and could not work, you lost your job. If you lost your job, you lost everything. You worked until your body gave out, and then you were replaced. We arrive at the most recent period on our list, and it might surprise you that the number 1 spot does not belong to ancient history. It belongs to the last 100 years. If you were born in 1900, by the time you were 14, World War I had started, the deadliest war the world had seen up to that point. By age 18, you were likely fighting in it. Trenches filled with mud and rats, chemical weapons, burning soldiers from the inside, machine guns mowing down entire regiments in minutes. And if you survived, which millions did not, the Spanish flu arrived the moment it ended. 50 to 100 million people dead in just 2 years. If you survived that, by age 29, the Great Depression began. Banks collapsing overnight, mass unemployment, people losing everything they had built in a matter of weeks. And if you survived that, by age 39, World War II started. The deadliest conflict in all of recorded human history. 85 million people dead. And if you were Jewish, anywhere in Europe, the odds of surviving to see the end of that war were genuinely terrifying. By the time the generation born in 1900 finally reached old age, they had lived through 4 of the worst events in the history of the modern world. No recovery time between them. No rest. Just one catastrophe directly followed by the next. Most generations in history faced one major crisis in their lifetime. This generation faced the entire century's worth in the first 45 years of their life. And they did it without the internet, without modern medicine, without the ability to even call a family member on the other side of the world to find out if they were still alive. The fact that you exist right now is proof that something in your bloodline survived everything this list threw at it. So the next time life feels impossible, remember what you actually come from.